Can you see that?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So welcome. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with me. Um, After talking to Annie back in the summer, we thought it'd be a fun idea to talk about self-help through project management, which is kind of weird. But how I organize my work around how it fits me. So I'm going to share some organization tips that have helped me manage all the things. So today I'm going to review how I apply the SMART acronym to goals and tasks, and I'll talk about some antecedent strategies that have helped set me up for success, and I'll introduce some free tools that have been a game changer in my business. So the acronym SMART became a huge part of my roadmap to ABA parent training curriculum because I previously felt stuck with parent goals not being met. I looked for ways to make parent training meaningful, and this acronym really helped me with that. As behavior analysts, I think we're really good at the SMA part. So we're targeting specific behaviors, we're measuring behavior, collecting data on that behavior, and then coming up with an action plan. But with like the parent training stuff, like I was talking about, I kept coming back to the R because the goals I previously had in place, I came to realize they weren't realistic just because they just weren't getting done. And this really challenged me to think about goals and activities that a parent could complete that also showed that they were making progress too. So parent training became less about lectures and handouts and then more about like the hands-on practice with the content. Such as like correcting 5 non-examples of observable behavior instead of just explaining what observable behavior was and then asking them to collect ABC data. Because when it came back, I was like, oh, we have to fix some of these statements. So I even added like SMART goals, something as simple as establishing a time frame, like when can you do this data collection? To increase the chances that they would get it done instead of hoping that they find time in their schedule to do what we're asking them to do. So with applying the acronym SMART to my business, the SMA part is pretty much me task analyzing everything. And then the R is making sure I'm realistic about my time and my schedule, making some hard decisions about working part-time and what that would look like and how it would affect my family. Making that switch and then attaching due dates to everything. Like I really want to stay on top of everything, mainly because I don't want to get in trouble with the IRS because that's just a no-no. So there's a lot that I had to learn when it came to starting a business. So for me, the biggest goal is, like I said, to stay afloat. To be realistic, I had to account for recurring tasks. So I was still doing, and I'm still doing direct work, like the data entry for the program updates for clients every week, reassessments and authorizations that occur every 6 months. There's QuickBooks that need to be done every month. I make monthly IRS payments. I implement this thing called Profit First. And I do like allocations twice a month. And so it's just a lot of admin work. And my goal is to be on time. Like, not ahead. I just want to be on time. And so with the time bound, naturally, there's due dates with big things like the end of an off period for a client or like the end of a quarter. So I have to pay like, federal taxes, unemployment taxes, sales tax. But the task related to each thing, they don't really have a due date. So they kind of accumulate, and then we're like, I don't want to get pressured at the very end and feel like I have no time to do all the things. So the big thing for me is putting these systems in place so that I'm doing them regularly, making checklists, templates, and calendar prompts so that I'm getting them done. And then also in the long run, like having these things written out and in place will allow me to scale my business eventually. When I get there, if I get there, and I'm really appreciative to have systems like this, especially when unexpected things happen. So like a couple months ago, I was in the hospital and had surgery, and I didn't expect it, and it happens. but like luckily my husband was able to pick up on some of those admin tasks like QuickBooks or whatever, file taxes, because I already had these systems in place. I already had like the task analysis for it, and he was able to go through it, or I had a video for it and he was able to look at that and do that for me. So along the lines of like staying realistic with myself, I put some preventative strategies in place to set me up for success and be productive. And so number one was understanding my preferences. So what reinforces me, clarifying my values, setting some goals, and then optimizing my environment, optimizing my schedule. So doing some block scheduling, so I'm kind of concentrating on a specific task, utilizing templates to streamline processes, setting boundaries. So I think the most I ever had with clients is 5, and I wouldn't, accept more clients on my caseload just because I wanted to carve out time for Paradigm. And then even on the flip side with Paradigm, like not doing too many projects because I want to, have that quality therapy with my clients and have those good relationships with them. And then allowing flexibility in my schedule too. Let's see. So values. Before I started Paradigm, I knew I had to be clear on my values because starting a business is just risky. Knowing my values really helped motivate me, especially because there's a lot of up and downs with the business. So whenever I feel like I'm not making progress, knowing like what my values are, what I'm passionate about really helped me kind of get back on track and work towards my goals. And so this is a bullseye activity. I wish I had or knew about it before I started Paradigm, but I think it's a really great tool, so I'm using it here. But this is kind of where you write your values on the 4 quadrants, and then you write an X to kind of represent like how in touch you are with that value. And then after that, you kind of set some goals that are aligned with those values. So for example, my career, I started Paradigm because I really enjoy the creativity and challenges behind creating these friendly resources. And I felt like I had something to offer in our field. So this value in particular is interesting to me because it also works as like my mission statement. So if I ever feel like I'm working on something and it's not aligned with being creative and being relevant to like resources, then it's easy for me to say, no, don't do that, But anyways, I made goals to make time for these creative projects. And for instance, like right now I'm updating one of my roadmaps with Adrian Fitzer. So hopefully we'll be launching that soon. So I have some dates attached to that, and hopefully we'll get that out. With relationships, that's a value of mine. I value being present with my family, with my husband and my daughter. My parents live nearby, so I want to maintain like a relationship with them. I've made it a goal to keep my schedule flexible, such as like not working on Fridays to give my parents a break from watching my daughter all week. Also, I use Fridays to help my parents out. I feel like I do a lot of secretary work with my parents. I'm doing a lot of like phone calls for them since their English isn't very strong. And especially not strong over the phone when you're talking to like an automated system. So I feel like I should help them out there. And then I also help take them out to different like appointments and such. Recently, I've added a goal of putting my phone away, because although like I've made time to where I can pick up my daughter, spend time with her, I'm on my phone. Like I'm checking my email, I'm on social media, and I got really mad at myself. And so knowing that value, I put in place a goal that was just like, put that phone far, far away. So it's actually in like, I put it in the next room so where I can't just like walk by it and like press the screen and kind of see where my notifications are or anything like that. It's just gone. So I have that as a goal for like my evenings, like my weekday evenings, and then my weekends. For leisure, you can see my value mark is like not really away from the center. Is woodworking. Woodworking is a hobby of mine that started out because I want to furnish my home. It's a fun hobby for me, but this year I haven't really completed as many projects projects as I would like. But I did, however, I built a bed for my daughter. It was supposed to be for her birthday in May. It's November, so it took me way too long to complete it, but I got it done. But anyways, that's one of my values and goals, is just to work on certain projects for my home. And then for education, especially when I started Paradigm, I didn't know a lot about business, and so I read a lot of books, but then I was in the car a lot, so I made a point to download as many audiobooks and podcasts and stuff like that. So I kind of continued with that value, to make sure I was setting myself up for success for that other value for my career. So I read an article about goal statements, about how making progress toward a goal can be reinforcing too. They gave an example about completing 3 out of 10 tasks of a goal is better than 0 out of 10, better than none. So like working towards a goal is also reinforcement in itself, is pretty much is what he's saying. This is the bed I built for my daughter. And although it took me 6 months to complete, like whenever I cut the wood, I was just like, yes, it's almost done. And then all of a sudden I was just like, I'm not almost done. I have to sand, I have to buy the brackets, I have to paint, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But I did feel reinforced as I was making progress. And I definitely wasn't going to just scrap it and say, I'm going to buy you a bed instead. Anyways, I want to show that example. Also, I love this picture. Okay, so going back to optimizing my environment, my schedule. Before I could do any of that, I literally jotted everything down on like a random week to get an idea of what my week looked like. I even wrote down how long it took me to complete that task. So it was just pretty much like a journal entry on like a spreadsheet similar to this. The white boxes I didn't really fill in. They're typically like my morning and evening routines, like with my daughter. And then Fridays, like I said earlier, I try to be off. But if you look at my Friday that week, I'm pretty sure I put on PBS so that my daughter could watch TV while I did some work. And then I think I worked during her nap time on that day. So I didn't feel good about that. This week I felt like it's kind of an off week, but I think most weeks are going to feel that way anyways. So the gray areas I highlighted is whenever I helped my parents with, this was last year. So they were working on some retirement stuff. And since I value family, I was very quick to drop my work and help them. And as you can see, like in this spreadsheet here, like it's definitely not effective for me to do that, but that's what I did, and I jotted it down. The pink areas are the client work, direct and indirect. There are times in the afternoons where I can't change because that's literally like when I see them. And then you can see some indirect time where like I'm working in the evenings, like Thursday evening, I worked from like 8 to 10 o'clock. And then on Friday, I worked another 2 hours, you know. So they're just kind of spotty and everywhere. And then the red areas, I highlighted as like my admin time, like working on QuickBooks, taxes or whatever. And I'm pretty sure this week, I think I was troubleshooting something, but I really shouldn't have spent the whole day, all 7 hours on that. So that was kind of an eye-opener for me. And then also kind of offer this week was volunteer work. So I volunteer for like a local ABA, and I help them with some event planning. And I worked on their stuff because they had a deadline, I believe, that was coming soon. So I worked 4 hours. So it took away from, you know, my other work doing that. So as you can see, like the paradigm is the green. It's very spotty. It's like 1 hour here, 1 hour there, not very efficient. And so I had to really like evaluate what I was doing now and how I can optimize my schedule. So I took that same schedule and then I created like a loose schedule, like some work blocks. And I actually still use the schedule like after a year. If personal things came up, then I would try to push them off to like natural breaks, like my lunch hour, like at 11 o'clock, or I had another break later in the day. Or I just push it off to Fridays, because if it's not pressing enough, like I really shouldn't be taking away from like Paradigm or client work or any of that kind of stuff. Mornings are kind of where I'm most creative. And I don't have clients in the mornings either. So it made the most sense to work on Paradigm here. And then I have consistent work blocks for client work, and I have some flex days. So if you look at like my Wednesday and Thursday afternoons, I actually have, I have a client, but I have 2 different therapists. And so if I provide oversight, like let's say if I provide oversight and I'm physically there on Wednesday, then I'll use Thursday as my flex day to work on other things. Or if I decide to provide oversight for that therapist on Thursday, then my Wednesday would be my flex day. So I'm able to like kind of allocate that time appropriately and try to stick to the schedule as best I can. So I mentioned taking baseline data, not to like show my schedule, but really to show like it's a nice comparison to know how long it's taking you to complete a specific task and how long you should be spending on a task. Like for me, I spent way too much time on admin time. That one day it was like 7 hours, and I don't think I included emails. And responding to emails take a lot of time. But in my new schedule, I spend less than 5 hours a week. And I even included, so if you look at my Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday before I go out to drive to see the clients, I'll spend 30 minutes on email. So I try like the whole like morning and the afternoon, early afternoon, to not check emails until this specific time, to just kind of organize myself. So going back to this schedule, this is an example of a schedule I remember working in a clinical setting. When I would come into work, I wouldn't know what I was scheduled for the day. You know, I'd have some client work, I'd have some indirect work, but I just didn't know what it was. And even when I was there, the schedule would change on me depending on whatever, you know, comes up that day. So I thought it'd be realistic to kind of show an example of this. Let's see. So I would always have like a to-do list. And then with to-do lists, I mean, I think they're great, but when you have like a variable schedule, like I had at the clinic, it's really hard to know like where to start. So I tend to like check off like the easy stuff, you know, but then when you're doing that and you have like a longer block, you have a 2-hour block, or you have the longer than 2-hour block, you don't want to be checking off the smaller stuff. You want to be working on, you know, the things that take more work, like writing reports, or you know, doing projects like putting together a staff presentation or something like that, you know, and you want to be effective with your schedule. So I think knowing how long it takes you to like create materials, do data entry and stuff like that, like this should be in my 1-hour block, this should be in my 2-hour block. And then in the longer blocks, this is what I could do typically in those times, knowing that I will have that in my schedule somewhere. But even with something like this, like you still get kind of lost, because you know you'll have a whole caseload of clients and you just have like a small to-do list. So it's just like, how do you organize and keep track of all of that stuff? And so I want to share some helpful tools, all free, because I can't afford all the expensive stuff, to share with you. There's a lot of like free and paid stuff if you want to do the paid version of things. But I think the main key point for any of these resources is to know your behavior and sticking to a system, instead of like switching between systems, because that takes a lot of time too. I used to use Trello, and I mean, I tried my best to keep up with it, but then I switched to Asana because I also bullet journal, and that's kind of list based. And because Asana looked a lot like what I was already doing, like my current behavior of just doing lists and just kind of crossing them off, kind of like negative reinforcement, I guess. Asana really matched up with me. So I'll be doing a demonstration with that one after I kind of explain all these other tools. So with Google Drive, I love it for its templates, and I just love that you can link to different things like Google Sheets. And I'll show you like a payroll sheet that I use for myself in a bit. But templates in general save a lot of time. Like I have a graph template, and it used to take me 45 minutes to, an hour and a half to do like manual data entry. It wasn't even like updating programs, which is data entry for like my caseload. But then I created some templates and put some systems in place, and now it takes me like 5 to 10 minutes for the same amount of work. It's pretty awesome. With some of the systems that I use, like QuickBooks, I have templates for that. Like I don't use their paid payroll feature in there. So I have to write journal entries, but I also have templates for that. So whenever you can use templates, definitely use them. I'll get into Asana later today, but like I said, I like it for its list building. I like that I can add the components of Smart to them. Like I can add due dates, I can set up recurring tasks, I can assign them to certain people, mainly myself because it's just me. I don't know if you know of Use Loom. I love it. I use it for tutorials, like how I mentioned earlier, like scaling my business. I'll have like a TA for like uploading my bank statements to QuickBooks, but I also created a video for it, so my husband was able to watch the video to kind of watch me do it, like a screen share sort of thing. And an awesome thing about Use Loom, let me see if I can capture this link. Oh no. Trying to highlight this link down here. And I'm going to put it in the chat. If I can find the chat. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. So whenever I create a video on UseLoom, I'm going to get back to where I was. When I create a video on UseLoom, it directly sends it to, it uploads it to a link where I can just send it out freely. So instead of just like recording a video, uploading it to like YouTube and then sharing that link, it's all like one click, one step. And I really like it because I'm able to have a camera on myself and demonstrate a few things, but also share my screen so I can put like a program sheet on. I've been using it a lot for therapy lately because I do in-home therapy and I'm not able to see my therapist as often as I would if we were at the clinic. And so I would have like the program sheet up, and then I would have the camera on me and I would show them the materials needed for that program. I would demonstrate that program, and then what I would have them do is I would have them comment and say, I watched that video, so that I know that I'm keeping them accountable so they know what to expect in their sessions. And you guys can comment on the video I just sent you, although it's just me waving, but I just kind of wanted to show you what that looks like and how fast it is. It's pretty much an add-on to your browser, and then you can just screen share anything. I've been using it for a long time now, but I absolutely love it. And then the fact that, like I said earlier, it's a link that I can attach to like Asana. So if I needed someone to, if I want to train someone how to do a certain task, they can just click that link to that video instead of having to go through like your folders, and finding that video and then watching that video is just immediate. Another tool I like is LastPass, and this is just a password vault, but you're able to set up different restrictions for different people. Like if you're hiring someone, they don't see all your passwords, they can see a certain password. You can set up temporary passwords, which is awesome. So that's a really cool tool. And then the last one is kind of a funny one, but I love it. It's the Focus Keeper app. I think it's on iPhone, but I think there's similar ones on different apps. But I don't know if you guys have heard of Pomodoro, the Pomodoro method. It's a weird name because it's Italian for tomato. But it's referring to those kitchen timers shaped like a tomato. And the idea is to have 25 minutes of focused work and a 5-minute break. And so you have this timer, and they used to just use a kitchen timer, but I just use my app because they have an app for that. So if I'm feeling like really distracted, and I was really good about doing this, just my everyday work, I've kind of fell off of it. But when I'm feeling really distracted, I'll turn on the Pomodoro app. And I'll have a certain task that I'm working on. Let's say I'm doing report writing, but then I'm expecting an email. I'm having this urgency to check something, like instead of checking my email or being distracted from that task, I'll reserve that one thing for the 5-minute break. So it's 25-minute focus work, 5-minute break. So I can actually push my distractions to the smaller like incremental time, so I can have this like focus time. And I feel like I actually get a lot more work done. I don't have data on that, but like but I think it helps me focus a lot whenever I'm feeling like I'm all over the place. Anyways, those are my my top apps. I'm going to show you Asana, so I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. And let's see. Do you guys have any questions so far?
I actually have a question. So you had shown like a values matrix or bullseye of sorts.
Yeah.
Have you ever used that with like any of your RBTs to see what sort of, I don't know, like subject matter within the field they'd be interested in learning, and to see how motivated they would be, or how high of, or where that would lie within like that values matrix? Because I saw that and I immediately thought, I need to use this with my RBTs. This is amazing.
No, me and Lindsay love it. So we went to the ACT boot camp, but we saw the bullseye beforehand, and I'll send you a resource for that.
I would love that.
But I did so in the ACT boot camp, hold on, I can't multitask. In the boot camp, I think it was Jonathan Tarbox, he was talking about employees and like satisfaction with their jobs and stuff like that. And so I think they did something similar of like doing like a values exercise, remembering why. I think there was one where you thought about like the first client you had, or like the first behavior change that you saw, and it just reminds you of why you're in this field. And then that's kind of all they did. They did this like exercise, and they didn't really tell the participant like what it was for, but they noticed like an increase of engagement with like, I think they were in a day hab or something like that. And so they were providing more eye contact, they were having more conversations, with the clients. And so it's a really good exercise to have. And I've done the bullseye with like a training I did, like a staff training on play. I didn't really tell them what it was about, but I had them do this exercise and just kind of remind them why they're here. Because I think it was also a Saturday that we were doing this training, and I didn't want them to like tune out or anything like that. So whenever I did that exercise, they were definitely there. There were definitely some tears, but they were definitely motivated to do the work. So I think, like you said, kind of, talking about like RBTs and like areas of interest, I think that would be good for them too. Cause it's not only just like our career, like I put woodworking in there, like that's a lead thing. So it's definitely versatile.
Lovely. Yeah, I love that. I love how I'm just, this conversation has led me to think of how I'm going to restructure my RBT trainings from now on.
See, I need to do that too. Like I've been incorporating more of it as best I can, because I'm learning kind of as I go.
Yeah.
And so I love it with like my parenting, because that's kind of what I'm really passionate about. But I need to do it with like my therapist too, because I don't want them to check out during their sessions, or, you know, if something is, you know, with their personal lives, if something is going on, you know, I don't want that to affect their session. So being able to be present, you know, and all of that, these exercises are really helpful for that. So I'm definitely exploring this field or this area. Okay, so I'm going to, any more questions? Oh, okay, let's see if I do this right. I think I'm going to share my whole screen. Did any of you guys comment? No comments on my username. Okay, sorry. Bear with me just a second. Okay, can you see like my whole desktop? Cool. Okay. So this is my personal Asana, but because there's just way too much information on it, I just kind of wanted to show you one thing with it. So Asana is free. You can use it for organizations and for your personal uses. And there's obviously like a paid version with it. I've just done pretty well just with the free version. But the difference is if you have like a work email, so I have my Paradigm, and that's just an organization account, versus my my personal email. So I didn't want to show all the stuff in my Paradigm, but I did copy over like projects from it. But the difference is that I don't get to set up teams in my, yay, you sent me a comment. So I didn't want to set up, I can't set up teams in my personal account. So like in my organization account, I have these things called teams, where it's like departments in your company. So like there's the executive, there's a marketing department. They might not even be departments. It's just kind of like categories. So for like under executive, like I have like annual goals, I have financial tasks that I want to keep on top of. I do profit first, so I have a, you know, project for that. There's things that I do for my products, and so forth. But anyways, I just kind of took over some of those things that I felt like were relevant for this talk, and kind of I wanted to share with you some of the things that I thought are helpful and special. So the key features about this, I really like how it's like a list building. As you can see, it's like a checkoff list sort of thing. I can do a TA under like a category. So I have like a subtitle or subheader up here. I can attach dates to a task, and I can also make them a reoccurring task. So like uploading bank statements, that's a monthly thing for QuickBooks, because my bank and QuickBooks don't sync, which is like a pain in the butt. But because I want to like do profit first, I found a bank that will allow me to have all these different accounts. It kind of uses the Dave Ramsey, like the envelope system. Have you ever heard of that? But for businesses. So I love profit first because I can kind of see, I can allot money to like my taxes. I can allot money to my operational expenses. I can allot money to pay myself for salary. And whenever I open up my bank account, I know where my money is. Like when I used to just have it all in one bank account, I in my head was like, okay, I need to save this much money because I got to pay my taxes at the end of the month. But it was all kind of in my head and it wasn't all there. But with this system, it's helped me a lot. But people do different things. This really works for me. Anyways, I think I got a little off topic. I'm really passionate about it. Anyways, I can assign tasks to myself. So these tasks right here, I don't have anybody assigned to. So I can assign them to me. I can assign them to another person. So I'm going to assign them to me. Whoops. Let me highlight so I can show you what batching looks like. Then I can also attach a date to it. So I can have them due on Monday, sort of thing. Going back to the recurring tasks, you can make it to where it's pretty flexible. Like I do it monthly and then I have it on the 5th of every month. You can do it quarterly. So if you do it quarterly, you would do it every 3 months, and then you can do it on the 10th. I think that's kind of how I have it for filing my taxes. And then I do monthly payments. But if you look, when I click on these things, I have a TA on the right. So I look at my payroll spreadsheet, and then I go to the website at eftps.gov, and then I write everything down, where to reference and stuff like that. And then instead of like typing it in or having a favorites on your browser, I have links to get to the website. And then this is where I was talking about where I really like Google Sheets for links and then use Loom for links, is because I'll get to attach my payroll. So hopefully this is the blank one. Yes, this is the blank one. So this is my payroll template. So definitely maximizing on templates, and I do my own payroll. So like, I don't know why I did that. So I'll put like a random number there. But whenever I do my deposits, my monthly employer deposits, like I know this is for Social Security, this is for Medicare, and this is for withholding. And then I do it in QuickBooks too, so I have to write these journal entries. So if I scroll down, I have like a place to put all of my journal entries there too. So I just have to just reference the spreadsheet and then just copy it over to QuickBooks or whatever I need to do. So very handy dandy spreadsheet that I love. And then I don't have to just like go into my folders and look for this payroll spreadsheet. I can just click and automatically get there. Another thing about these links, what did I do? So I keep talking about QuickBooks. I think because QuickBooks just needs a lot of training. I hate it so much, but I need it. So I have the link to the website, and then I obviously have like a TA of what I need to do for this specific task. But as I was telling you about, like I use the use Loom links. So if I want to see a video tutorial on this, I can do like the @ sign and then do QuickBooks, and it goes to this folder right here, or this project folder of tutorials. And that's where I keep all of my tutorials. So if I click that, it'll do a link. And if I click it, it'll go to this project. So right here is this is a board, and it looks a lot like Trello and like the Post-it system. But if I click QuickBooks, I can link with this one. I'll just do like a use Loom link in the description, and I can get to a video tutorial if I need to get there. So it's kind of like a bank of video tutorials, which is kind of awesome. I have like a bank of video tutorials for like my marketing, like how to work my website, how to export things for my website, and just kind of things I kind of automate. So these are just nice little tutorials, but in a nice little, I don't remember what you call it, it's like agile system. But anyways, so let me see. I don't want to get too much off task. I feel like I'm going everywhere. So I talked about recurring tasks. I talked about setting up some templates. I want to talk about like the clinical setting. So I wanted to show you like a typical client, I guess. So for templates, I'll have like a TA on, this is actually billing for a specific client. So I'll file a claim on that client, and then this is kind of what I need to do, because I don't do it all the time, and I need to make sure that like I follow the steps precisely, because if you don't, you might not get paid, sort of thing. So with templates, what I do is I'll tag them as a template, so you can see like there's this yellow thing right here, and if I had a new client, I can always duplicate this task, so I don't have to rewrite everything. I can rewrite this task, and so it shows up here. And what I'll do is, like, let's say I decided to take on client C. Then I can move this up here, and I don't think I spelled professional right. That's okay. You guys can forgive me. And so I'll have this here, and then I'll take away the tag that it's a template, and then I can set up some recurring dates for this client. So it's kind of nice. So I do this for like program updates too every week. I can schedule that weekly, can do it with supervision, and stuff like that. So you guys kind of get the gist of that. Another thing I thought was cool, because I like the list stuff and I do it all the time, but when you're working with other people, like customers or potential clients, I thought about using this sort of system where you're just kind of moving them along. So like I just started doing purchase orders for Paradigm. And so I have a template and I'll have everything written out. So what I need to do before they send me a purchase order, so I have to send them a W-9. And then after I receive that PO, like there's all these things I have to do. I have to send them the link. I have to send them an invoice and all that kind of stuff. So I write them all down. And then as I click things, as we're getting stuff together, then I just kind of move them along. You can attach a picture. I do this for my playroom. I have some companies like we're working together to create these stop motion videos together, and so I'll have their logo and I'll just kind of move them along and saying, oh, I'm editing your videos right now, so I'm in the editing file. And then I just quickly, it's been a while since I've done like client intake whenever I worked in the clinical setting, and taking inquiries, because I don't really do that anymore. But I was thinking one of the first things that we do is we'll get an email from a parent like, I'm interested in services, and then you'll send them a link to documents that they need to fill out these forms. They need to send you a copy of their insurance and all that kind of stuff. And then you can move them along whenever you received all of those documents, and then you know that it's time, like, okay, I have enough information that I can request auth, and then schedule an eval. So these are kind of different ideas that you could use in the clinical setting. I'm trying to see what else, because I'm running out of time. I think that's mainly it. I did want to show you like what a product looks like for me. So Paradigm, I create products. So I have to put in some like important dates here of when it like the product is going to go live. So some goals for that. Some quick access links. Like I told you, I really like putting links in there so I can just get to that folder immediately. And then things that I need for like the product creation. So I'm looking here, I think I copied and pasted this from, I created peak data. When I was working with Dr. Dixon, like he gave me some feedback. So I went and changed some of those things with the PDF. I had to create instructions how to use, peak data. And then along with like the written instructions, I wanted to do a video as well, because you kind of actually want to see hands-on like how I'm actually using it. So I made it a goal or a task to create a video for that, which I did use Loom for that, and all the good stuff that goes into launching a product. Anyhow, I did have one thing about like supervision. This is the task list. If you guys want a copy of this one, what you could do is I'll have this if you are going to use Asana, but how about we just do, select all and copy. And if you create a project, we'll call this super cool. And then you paste. Like you kind of already have these things in place. And so if you wanted to like put, a name on it, like Annie, you can be my supervisee. I want you to, let's go through this task list together. You can kind of like mark things out. But I thought it'd be a cool thing to use. I don't use it yet with Asana because I'm kind of like building my other stuff with it, but I thought it'd be a cool start for supervision. And I tried to get it to where I copied and pasted from like the PDF the task list, but I typed everything out. So if you guys want that, I can provide that link to the Google Docs, so you can, if you want to use it, it's just, it's typed out for you guys. Anyways, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. I think I showed you everything I wanted to. I don't know if you guys had any questions for me. Cool.
Well, if no one has any questions, Christina, what's a great way for folks to contact you if they do have questions, maybe in the future?
Oh, it's a crazy long email. Chris, I don't know, it's because it's my first and last name. I should have just done Christina@paradigmbehavior.com, but nope, I had to add in my last name. Christina Connor at paradigmbehavior.com.
Perfect. Awesome. And can they find you on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else?
Oh, I'm definitely on Instagram. Facebook, not so much, but I haven't been posting on Instagram lately. So, but that's a platform I'm mostly engaged in. But definitely email me. I like fun emails.
That's good to know. Alrighty. Well, everyone, thank you so much for attending today. So for the folks who couldn't attend, I will be sending this as a recording to see if this would be a good way to have more folks see our presentations. And for the folks who were able to attend, as always, I will send you a survey after this talk that will have a few different questions concerning today's chats. And once that's answered, I will be able to send you a CE certificate. So that's about it. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We'll have questions later.
Cool. I'm ready.